have invited a panel of 5 students here. 3 of the students are from Yonsei University and 2 from Seonggyun University and Ewha Women's University. Hi guys. Hi. How are you feeling? Are you guys nervous? Nervous?
A lot.
Everybody? So, I don't know, are you nervous? You don't look nervous. I can't read your facial expressions. So, yeah. So which of you would like to open up the conversation today?
I will.
All right.
It's an honor to see you, Mr. Schmidt.
Oh, thank you.
My name is Hyun-jin from Ewha Women's University. My question would be, when you're in college, what was your dream? What did you dream of becoming? And did you ever expect that you're going to become a CEO?
No. No, in fact, I thought it would be sort of stupid to be a CEO. When I look back, I was at Berkeley, and I was a programmer. And this was a time when the computing world was very small. But I spent all night programming. To give you an idea of how gaming worked, there was one game that you could play, which was called Adventure. And my friend Mark and I decided to skip all of our classes for 4 days, and we became grand masters of Adventure, and then we stopped. So it was the same personality as today when I think back, but we had no connectivity. I built the first network at Berkeley that connected 20 or so computers. Now there are tens of thousands. But what I remember the most was that I really loved what I was doing. In my case, I loved computer science. And so one of the suggestions I would make is that if you want to ultimately be a CEO, the best thing to do is not to want to be one, but instead to love what you're doing and do it so well and learn and then use that as a series of stepping stones. And that's, I think, better, because the hard work I did when I was your age really served me much later, because I remembered it. I remembered the way to think about it.
I'm curious, what was your first job right after graduating from Berkeley or?
I worked at a research lab called Xerox Palo Alto Research Center.
Research lab.
And Xerox was where I was just a young intern, and all of 20, 21, 22 years old. And I was working for these giants of the field who seemed incredibly old to me. They were all about 30. And that was where I learned a lot about how the technical infrastructure of the world would work. This is the place where the Ethernet was invented, where laser printing was invented, where the personal computer was invented.
So do you still remember what your first task was back then?
Well, I was a programmer, so in fact, I wrote my first real job was I wrote a product called Lex when I was at Bell Labs. The programmers here will know what this is. It's shockingly still in use.
Oh, it sounds like you must have been a typical computer.
Yeah, I think today you would say I was a computer nerd.
Sorry, I didn't want to use that word.
And we celebrate these people. We hire them. Right.
Great.
And this generation of programmers is far better than I ever was, because they start so young. Mm-hmm. So if you're a gifted programmer, will often start at the age of 13 or 14, and it just makes sense to them. Right.
So next question. What's your question, Chi-hee?
Good morning, Eric. It's an honor to be here with you today.
Thank you.
A lot of college students are not willing to push themselves out of their comfort zone because they fear the risk of failure. How would you advise college students to be bolder?
I think that's always been true. I would like to tell everyone here to go off and take every risk known to man, but most people ultimately don't take the risks. We ultimately work for founders. So I, for example, who am urging you to take all these risks, I didn't when I was your age, okay? And now I work with 2 very young and brilliant founders. So it is the truly gifted entrepreneurs are different from the rest of us, and we need to celebrate them. What I would encourage you to do is that here's another way of thinking about it. I bet you every single one of you knows a friend who's much smarter than you, absolutely brilliant, and really crazy, right? Right? Every one of you has at least one person like that. My advice would be to hang out with them because they're going to do something interesting. They're not going to do something normal. They're too strange to do something normal. So in my career, I always worked with people who were like that. They were impossibly smarter than I. And they ultimately would do things. In my case, when I was in graduate school, I worked with a fellow named Bill Joy, who invented much of the Unix infrastructure that you use today. And we've been friends for all of our adult lives. But somehow he saw the future faster than I would, and I was happy to follow him. And that's not a bad way. So if you don't yourself know exactly what you want, find somebody who's so crazy that you just get excited being around them and follow them. And something interesting will happen.
All right, so let's ask another student for a question. How about you, Taehyun? Taehyun?
It's way nervous than I thought.
We're all friendly here.
Yeah. My name is Lee Hyun, and I'm in Yonsei University, majoring in computer science.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Always the correct answer.
So you told us that you actually didn't want to be a CEO or management position.
Certainly. In fact, I thought it was a bad idea because it struck me that they were like doctors. They were always scheduled, and I wanted to be able to do whatever I wanted each day.
So, and you're the developer for the Java from the initial state when you're in
No, when I was at Sun, I was the executive in charge of it. I did not write the code.
Oh.
That's important to know. Some very smart people, James Gosling, Bill Joy, built it.
So my actual question is this one. Actually, you were the engineer, and now you change your career as a management. So what makes you to shift your career path like that?
Well, there's two reasons. The one is you're probably a really good programmer right now.
Are you?
I hope so, but
I hope so. In what languages?
I use C++, and I'm doing work related to bioinformatics.
Excellent.
It sounds like gibberish to me.
C++ is a computer language that was invented at Bell Labs in the 1970s by a guy named Bjarne Stroustrup. And bioinformatics is the most interesting new kind of application of information, is how I would describe it, to biological systems. And it will revolutionize the way medicine is done, for example. So you're right at the forefront. Well, the good news or bad news is that as you get older, you'll probably not be as good a programmer as you are now, but you'll be a much better human leader. You'll understand it better. And what will happen is you might ultimately want to lead people. And I would say that no matter how good a programmer I was, it's much more powerful to be the executive in charge of 10,000 of them than to be one. So you get scale. One of the great things about corporations is that you get scale with people. And it's an honor to lead them. So it's an honor to have them believe in you, that you can help make the decisions that solve these problems that matter.
So didn't you feel a little bad when you were in charge of management that you actually love the programming, that I can feel it? So if your supervisor asks you to, hey, you need to be a supervisor, so how did you feel at that time?
I think it comes to you naturally. I'm a person who likes people, and I like technology. And we have plenty of engineers that I know that are not very good with people, and that's okay too. But I think ultimately it is a privilege to lead. It's a privilege in the political sphere. It's a privilege in a university. It's a privilege to lead a university. It's a privilege to lead a corporation. And I think it's a good thing to aspire to.
So was it helpful?
A lot.
What's your future goal?
Actually, I just want to do a PhD, and then I just want to think. Right now, I just want to be a researching field. I just want to work.
All right.
And you love what you do.
Yeah.
All right. Next, Park Hyun-ha. Hyun-ha?
Hi, I'm very glad to meet you.
Don't be nervous.
Okay. My name is Park Hyun-ha, and I'm from Sungkyunkwan University, Software Department. And I am a first-year student, and I really want to work at Google. So,
He really wants to work at Google.
what should I prepare for?
A good question. Thank you. So we have the benefit that we can pick from the best and the brightest from all of Korea. And let me tell you what we look for. The first is we look for very, very good academic performance. Now, you might say, well, why do you need that in a company? After all, the school, maybe it's not so important to do well in English and in sociology and so forth. We disagree. We like to hire people who are very, very smart and who are flexible and curious. So that's how we look for it. And then the second thing is that it depends on what your area is. But if you're in engineering, you really need to be very good at that particular part of engineering. The other thing is we like you to be unusual. So we actually hired a rocket scientist because we thought it was so interesting to have a rocket scientist around. We've hired some people who won medals in the Olympics because we thought it'd be interesting to have those people too. So anything that really pushes you to be exceptional, a special hobby or a special gift, I think makes you a more interesting person. One of the things about Google, and I think this is true of modern corporations, is they tend to be team activities. So it is important that you be able to at least play well with your team members. Now, I think Korea is pretty competitive, but it's pretty team competitive. So teams against teams, and I think that bodes well for you.
Thank you.
I have a question. I have some friends who work at Google America, and they say Google is well known for its unpredictable job interview questions.
Yes.
So what kind of questions do you guys ask, and how can we prepare for that?
So, well, first place, you can't prepare for them. So magically, you have been shrunk to something this size, and you're in the bottom of a blender, and there's a set of blades that are about to start to turn on that will crush you. What should you do?
Well, I don't know what to say.
Well, this is not a Google job interview. You have 4 years to think of the answer.
All right, just think about that. All right, who's next?
Me.
Oh, yeah.
My name is Jung-Yun Lee.
Yes, I am.
I'm studying business and electrical engineering also here at Yonsei.
Excellent.
And I'm also founder of Armator, which is a mobile startup here. So my question is, how can I create a company like Google, and how can Korea make such a great tech company?
So how big is your company right now?
I have 5 members on my team. Yeah, I developed some application called Sound IG. So
Good.
yeah,
You're on your way.
yeah, thank you.
In order to ultimately, I mean, the good or bad news about these things is a lot of it comes down to luck. So it's hard work, it's perspiration, and it's having a lucky break. So first, your application has to actually work. So you need to do a good job of engineering, which I'm sure you're doing. And then it has to be the right time. You have to solve a problem that people really care about. And then you have to get it distributed fairly quickly, and the internet allows for very fast growth. So my guess is that you'll do very well. It's helpful to have investment money, and it's harder to get that here in Korea than it is in the United States. We have worked with a group called the KCC to try to actually award money to small startups, and we've got a number of such examples, so we're trying to help there. But I think ultimately, because you're doing mobile software, your cost of capital is low, you don't need very much cash, so you have a good chance. And so I would just keep going.
Thank you very much.
All right, why don't we change the subject to leadership? So, any question about leadership?
I have a question, and I just realized I was so nervous to be here with you. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Ji-hee Han. I'm from Yonsei University,
Good.
majoring in economics.
Excellent.
So
Which
my-
kind of economics? Which kind of economics?
I haven't decided yet, but I'm studying for GRE right now, so I'm going to be applying to graduate school hopefully next year
Okay,
and
good.
focus on whatever field I choose. And my question is, a lot of students aim to be a global leader, and a global leader is kind of frequently used term. However, it is really difficult to define. So as a college student, what did it mean to you? And as the CEO of Google today, what does it mean to you now?
Well, I think there's a couple of comments I would make. The first is that the world is a very big place and you need to see it. You can't just watch television and think you understand all these countries. You actually physically go. So, which means you have to have a passport, right? And in America, this is actually like a shock to people. So I always tell people, airplanes are cheap, get yourself a passport, go visit and see the world. The second thing I would tell you is that people are pretty much the same everywhere. They care about a lot of the same things. No surprise, we all have the same DNA. And so I encourage mutual respect and tolerance, of all of these things. So with those as the principles, what you try to do is find yourself in a situation where you get to travel and do business overseas. Even if it's just having people visit you here in Korea and do business with, say, Japan or China or what have you, you get a different perspective. So as you graduate, my strongest recommendation is don't think just Korea, think Korea plus the whole world. When you build your product, the languages that you support should be Korean, English, and Chinese, right? And Japanese, and maybe a few others on the first version, right?
We are now support English and Korean.
Well, let's add a couple of others. Did you know that there's more Chinese people than Americans? It's always a shock to Americans.
All right. So, who's next? What do you have?
I have a last question.
Right.
How would you define your own leadership style? In other words, what kind of leadership style did you pursue, and how did it help you to become an effective CEO?
I don't think there's a single way in which leadership works. The best, and I've had much training, which I think is very helpful, so I obviously believe in education, even in leadership. But I think the single best thing to do is to try to be yourself, because an inauthentic leader, people see through it. So this is my style, this is what I think, and this is who I am. There are plenty of other very successful business people and political leaders who are very different. So literally, the way you think and be willing to communicate why you think the way you do in your own style. There are leaders who are loud and funny and clever. There are leaders that are relatively quiet. But all of the leaders have a property that you can tell that they care a lot about their mission and about you. And your employees are always checking. They're always saying, are they really leading us right? Do they really care? And they can tell immediately when you start acting not in the best interest of the institution or the firm. So in a university, in a business, people are very attuned to that. So to me, the leadership style that I've used is, first, I like conversations. Second, I'm an engineer, so we have to have the facts right. We can't just make stuff up, always a shock. And the other thing I like to do is I like to get a conversation like this, and I like to have an argument. And if you have a good argument and you push, you often get the best decision. If everybody just says, yes, 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 that often does not produce the best decision. The best decision is he disagrees, he disagrees with him, and then you say, I have a completely new idea, and she says, I disagree with all of you. All of a sudden, now I think we've got a good conversation. And it's important as a leader to allow that to occur and let the conversation happen. And when the conversation is sort of done, you can say, okay, this is what we're going to do.
All right. Was it helpful?
I have a follow-up question. What would you do if, like, for example, if you're operating in a company, in a country, and their core value does not agree with yours?
Are you discussing China?
Sort of.
Well, we had this test at Google. I pushed hard for Google to enter the mainland China because I thought it would be important for us to get that information out to the Chinese citizens. We were very upset about Chinese censorship. Google believes very strongly in open criticism, open communications. And after about 5 years, because of an attack by their technical teams against Google and so forth, we decided to move to Hong Kong. So that's probably the best example of it. It was a very difficult decision, but we did it the way I described. We had a series of meetings. Everybody had an opinion. Some people were passionate on one side, some people were passionate on the other, and we ultimately came to the decision to move to Hong Kong. But it was but what I like about the decision was that we argued it through very thoroughly. So everybody saw that we made the decision and saw why we made the decision internally. So then we had buy-in from our employees who didn't also agree on either side.
All right. Argue more with your friends. That can be an option. So thank you for your insightful questions, panel. Thank you very much.